boycotts.com if you're able to help us out. But with that, let's get with the disaster relief funding. So let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. Absolute major outcry yesterday after the Trump administration put out a FEMA guidance. And let me just keep this up here while I'm talking, just to explain how absolutely crazy this is. So FEMA put out a guidance, Ryan, to all states that who want to accept disaster relief grants, which, you know, all right, I would say all of them. And, you know, even the libertarians would be like, all right, you know,
tax money,
the federal government, you know, the federal government doesn't have a lot of roles. We could all probably say disaster relief, you know, broadly one of those.
Well, Trump for like 5 minutes was like, FEMA's not going to do anything anymore.
Right. So, but I'm saying,
first disaster,
if you were to
actually,
ask most people what the role of federal government is, it's like, hey, if you get hit by a hurricane, you know, they're going to come in and help you. We all pay into the system. System helps us out whenever that happens. Well, the Trump administration slipped in this exact language into these FEMA grants. And I'm going to read directly, just so you all understand how absolutely crazy it is. It says that by accepting, recipients will comply with all applicable federal anti-discrimination laws material to the government's payment decisions for purposes of 31 U.S.C. 372b4. Quote, definitions as used in this clause. DEI means diversity, equity, inclusion. DEIA means diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Discriminatory equity ideology has a meaning set forth, and they talk about an executive order. So far, they're saying you can't have DEI policies on the books if you want to this disaster relief funding. Okay, I'm totally fine with that. But then subpart D says here, quote, discriminatory prohibited boycott means refusing to deal, cutting commercial relations, or otherwise limiting commercial relations, specifically with Israeli companies or with companies doing business in or with Israel or authorized by, licensed by, or organized under the laws of Israel to do business. So let's underscore that, is that the Trump administration was telling states, if you allow the boycott of Israel, if you allow the boycott of Israeli companies, if you allow the boycott of companies doing business with Israel, you as a United States citizen and as a state will be barred from your tax dollars from getting disaster relief funding. Now, this was, Ryan, I think just too much for everybody involved. And so what ensued was a fascinating about face, which is not really an about face, which takes us to the next one. Let's put that up there on the screen. Shortly after, many of us drew, basically had outcry about this, drew attention. The Trump administration removed that exact language about discriminatory boycotts against the state of Israel. I have the original and the new, by the way.
Do we have Rufo here?
Yeah, well, I didn't originally have it in, but people like Christopher Rufo, who's a anti-DEI
He quote tweeted yours.
That's right. He was like, hey, even this is not good. And Ryan, I just want your reaction here now, because they've come full circle. Even though they did remove this anti-discriminatory language about the state of Israel. Put the next one up here on the screen, just so I can very clearly explain. The DHS put out this statement, quote, there is no FEMA requirement tied to Israel in any current, guidance. No states have lost funding. No new conditions have been imposed. FEMA grants remain governed by existing law and policy and not political litmus tests. Quote, DHS will enforce all anti-discrimination laws and policies, including as it relates to the BDS movement, which is expressly grounded in anti-Semitism. So my explanation, based on my reporting, talking with many of the people involved, is that after the outcry, they removed the specific language about Israel. But the DHS statement makes it clear they reserve the right to deny you your federal funding should you engage in BDS. And I mean, Ryan, I genuinely...
Look at the last line there.
Yeah.
Those who engage in racial discrimination should not receive a single dollar of federal funding. That sounds like Biden.
I mean, in actual racial discrimination, sure. If it's about BDS, no. And obviously, that's why the languages matter. And that's why, Ryan, I just think this is such...
It's not racial discrimination.
I know that. You and I know that, all right? These terms all used to mean things, and they don't anymore. But, Ryan, this is just such a dramatic outrage to say that they would withhold federal funding based upon boycotting the state of Israel to any state. And, the fact is that, look, yeah, it's great. They removed the language. The fact it was in the first place is insane. And then the fact that the DHS basically put out a statement saying we reserve the right to do so if we would like to shows us that the policy effectively remains in effect today. It's preposterous. It's un-American.
It's the exact same policy because the states have been put on notice by that DHS statement that they put out on Twitter there that they believe that the law as it's written gives them the right to withhold aid money from any state that involves itself in a boycott of Israeli companies.
And not even involves itself, allows its state's residents to engage in boycotts.
Right. And so are they saying that, and we can put these up next if we want, the list of states, there's more than 30 states across the country have laws on the books that say that if you want to do any business with that state whatsoever, which means like a lot of contractors that may work for a private company
Yep.
that itself does some other contracting with the state, set aside being a teacher or some other obvious state employee, that if you participate in BDS, you can't participate in any in this work in your own society, that you pledge that you will never boycott, which then the line in there that says you won't even limit your. So what if you're like, well, I was going to do 10 orders of hummus
Right.
for this party, but I think I might only need 5. And they're like, wait a minute. Now, do you really only need 5, or are you limiting your purchase of hummus?
Well, what's preposterous about it is that it includes Israeli companies doing business with Israel. As you said, what is the state going to come in and be like, you're not doing enough business with Israel?
Do more
you need
business
to do
with
more
Israel.
business with Israel.
Yeah.
Who's telling me that as a private business, who or what I can do business with whatever I want? Also, we'll all recall that conservatives gleefully supported the boycott of Bud Light. Great. Okay.
Yeah, you should,
all right.
you should be able to.
Yeah, as you should be able to. Or what Ben & Jerry's said that they don't want to do. Fine, whatever. You don't want to buy Ben & Jerry's ice cream? Be my fucking guest, all right? Same. I could go on forever. The conservatives they went after Target, right? All right, fine. Don't shop at Target. That's okay.
And then
don't shop at any of these
liberals went
places.
after Target too.
Okay, good. Yeah, same.
Poor
all right?
Target.
Yeah, no, not poor Target. We don't need any more, all right? That's the message to my wife. We need to stop going to Target, all right? Why are they obsessed with it? But my
too much
point,
junk in Target.
There's too much bullshit in Target. I totally agree. But my point, just broadly, is that we should, of course, as private businesses and as citizens, be allowed to do whatever we want to do. And part of the reason why this is so ridiculous is that we could simultaneously refuse to do business with any other country. It's a carve-out here, specifically for the state of Israel. So us, as a private business, Ryan, could refuse to do business with Peru, or I don't even know.
Not Lithuania.
Yes,
they're a strong ally of
yeah,
ours.
that's right, as Alyssa Slotkin made very clear in our interview.
No,
but
you can boycott Russia.
You could boycott Russia.
You can pour their vodka right out on
That's
the
right.
sidewalk.
Yeah, Smirnoff. Is that still Russian owned? I don't know.
Who knows?
But yeah, all right.
You can
boycott, if you want to.
You can boycott
Goldschlager.
Ukraine.
Huh?
You can boycott Ukraine if you want to make your neighbors in the suburbs angry.
That's right.
You can do that.
I will. Yeah, I can't. Well, that would require boycotting a Ukrainian company, which I can't even think of any. But my point.
So is the question then that you actually have to pass a law, if it says that if you allow your citizens to boycott Israel, that you don't get this aid money? Does that mean you have to join these other 30+ states and implement your own anti-BDS law, or else you can't get this aid money? It's truly extraordinary.
And it all fits with a bigger pattern. This is something that red states have been doing for quite some time. Let's put this A5, please, up on the screen. This just came a few months ago. Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott of the state of Texas, sent a letter to the city of San Marcos for condemning a proposed anti-Semitic resolution, according to him, openly flouting Texas law. It says here, quote, Israel is a stalwart ally of the United States and a friend to Texas. I have repeatedly made it clear Texas will not tolerate anti-Semitism. Quote, anti-Israel policy. Are we seeing how these things are getting conflated? Anti-Israel policies are, quote, anti-Texas policies. Over a year ago, following Hamas's attacks, openly celebrating, I issued an executive order addressing anti-Semitism in higher education, and I have proudly signed legislation prohibiting government entities from supporting efforts to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. That remains the law here. In the letter, Governor Abbott noted San Marcos is required to certify it will comply with all state laws when it enters into grant agreements with its office, including laws prohibiting government support for boycotts of Israel, and the governor's office is reviewing active grants to determine whether the city has breached these terms. If the city adopts this anti-Semitic resolution, the office of the governor will immediately terminate all active grants not in compliance with state law. By the way, I've been to San Marcos, great city. There's some fun water parks and other things down there, rivers, etc. Nice part of the state. What in its governance has anything to do with the state of Israel? And the governor of Texas is withholding funds based upon the city of San Marcos's position on Israel and Palestine in a non-binding local resolution.
Yeah, and the city voted it down so as not to bring on the wrath of the governor of Texas. All the resolution said, by the way, was there should be a ceasefire.
That's it.
The citizens of San Marcos support a ceasefire. And also what it did is it calculated the percentage of state and federal money that goes to Israel, and then divided it basically and figured out what proportion San Marcos citizens were chipping in on that. And they said, we object to this. We don't want to be funding this. They have no capacity to claw that money back. That wasn't even what was happening. In other words, they were not allowed to say in a non-binding way that they disagreed with what was happening. That's with no teeth at all.
Got it.
Just, they were not allowed to publicly voice their opinion on the question, or else they would lose all of these state contracts.
Wow. Yeah.
That's it. They weren't actually going to take any bombs away from Israel.
Yeah, what are they going to do? It's the city of San Marcos. They've got the river. It's a population. I just looked at 94,000 people. All right, and if they want to pass some non-binding resolution, whatever. All right, I mean, it shouldn't have any any bearing or impact. Yeah, people do it all the time. And just so people know, it's not just red states that's happening. These are some of the biggest states in the country. Let's put this up there on the screen. This is from January of 2025. Kathy Hochul and the New York governor actually condemned the NYC university system faculty union for an Israel boycott. So again, a resolution passed by the Sunni Professional Staff Congress, representing its 30,000 members, puts its organization at odds with the university administration and the state government. The union, again, a union of the professors at SUNY, had a resolution, quote, citing the death toll in Gaza, talking about the ICC and the International Court of Justice as reason for a boycott. The resolution then said that this small student or this small professorial union will not will divest itself from investment vehicles with Israeli corporate stocks. Okay, I mean, again, we're talking about 30,000 people. They're pooled funds. What is it, a couple $1 million? Like, let's be honest. In terms of
not a lot of hummus.
It's not a lot of sabra. All right, and it called on the teachers' retirement system to, quote, enact a complete divestment of Israel. Okay, so that resolution passes by a vote of 73 to 70. The union confirms. The New York governor then comes out and says exclusively in a statement to the Times of Israel, in my first week as governor, I signed an executive order to divest public funds from institutions that participate in the harmful BDS movement, and that order remains in effect. I strongly oppose the resolution, narrowly passed by delegates, and will continue standing up against anti-Semitism and hate in all forms. So the New York Democratic governor and the Texas Republican governor have two things in common. They have BDS executive orders that were very quickly signed, in these two states. We have a blue state and a red state here, just to show you how big of a problem this entire thing is, and really the weaponization of a lot of this stuff. Finally, Ryan, can you explain this next one to us? Let's put it up there on the screen. This is from the Institute for Pure and Applied Mathematics at UCLA. A7, please. And Ryan's going to explain to us what happened.
This one is truly enraging from top to bottom. So, and this is Paul Graham had shared this post from Terrence Dow, who is a UCLA mathematician who is broadly agreed to be the greatest, or at least one of the top three mathematicians of the last 50 years. Okay. This is a guy who has, and nobody wants to hear me attempt to describe
we're not the
mathematics that he has, the kind of breakthroughs that he has rendered in mathematics.
People say he's good. All right,
look it up. Suffice it to say, it's some incredible stuff that has led to. And I was looking up last night. It's what he has done is theoretical, but his theoretical advances have led to a MRI machines working 10 times better than they would otherwise because of the expanded capacity to do visioning. And when it comes to all sorts of other practical applications, advances in mathematics help in ways that we can't even begin to understand. And if we don't have those advances, then we don't get those technological advances either. And that's for the people who are like, well, who cares about math? Whether it's applied or pure. So this guy has been a full professor at UCLA since the 90s when he was 24, the youngest person to ever become a full professor at UCLA. He is known throughout his field for his collaborative work. Hundreds of papers, more than 60 of them are with other mathematicians. So he's the kind of guy that is working with others to lift people up. What he announced here is that he's now lost all of his funding through the NSF and NIH. Because he's a UCLA professor, he'll still have his UCLA salary. So it's not like he personally is being fired as a result of this. But what it means is that all of his grad students are now unfunded. And if you think about who his grad students are, these are the up-and-coming best mathematicians in the world. Because if you're a math prodigy anywhere in the world, you want to work with Terrence Dow. This is the guy. Because not only is he a genius 10 times over, but he's collaborative and he loves working with people. What he wrote in his post here is that he had already had a bunch of his grants cut earlier when Doge was coming through. And so what he did is he took all of his own funding and deferred it. So he's like, I don't need any money for myself. I want all of the money that was coming to me to go to my grad students so that they can stay on for a little while longer. And now they've come back and they've cut that too. And
why? Tell us
Israel.
Why. Oh.
Israel.
And what's the justification?
Trump doesn't like the way that UCLA handled protests.
Okay.
But if you remember,
I was going to say, if I recall,
the cops let a bunch of
pro-Israel guys
thugs beat up the students.
Right.
And even that is not good enough. So you had Joe Lonsdale, private equity guy.
Yeah, I know Joe.
Tweeted. So Paul Graham posted this. Joe Lonsdale shared it and was like, look, Terrence, obviously a genius. We all respect his work, but he should work somewhere else because UCLA is actually terribly anti-Semitic and handled the protests. Like, they let the thugs beat the students, and then he disciplined a bunch of students for protesting a genocide. That's not good enough for you? That you have to, like, destroy Terrence Tao? Like, and who wins out of this?
Well, okay, and the irony is that UCLA and the University of California system has already taken extraordinary steps to comply with the Trump administration.
What do you, like,
currently, just so everybody understands, UC system, the University of California system, has put a ban on BDS and has said that any student organization that participates
which is like
in
all
BDS,
of them.
which is, a lot, not a shocker, the UC system will not be eligible for funds from the university. So already the university system, so it's like, well, what else do you want? And, reading through all of this, the justification of the, look, it has nothing to do with America. And that's why it's just infuriating to me. You want to pull the guy's visa or whatever if he's here illegally? Okay,
he's American, though.
No, I'm not saying, but I'm saying previous there were examples of that, right? You want to pull the guy's visa because he committed a crime, because he's a foreigner who, violated the visa law or whatever. Yeah. I'm fine with that. Or at least it's justifiable. If you want to pull the person for being discriminatory against fellow U.S. citizens or engaging in racial discrimination or something, I would be fine with that. But here, it's about what they claim is anti-Semitism, but as you just laid out, is about boycotting a foreign state. And by the way, this guy didn't even, from what I can understand, he's not even political, right? Or, no. Probably political to the extent all academics are, which is like vaguely liberal.
Probably voted for Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, voted for Gavin. Yeah, loves Gavin, loves Kamala, and this guy's funding gets pulled at the UCLA. So I just want people to understand the justification for this sledgehammer from the government and the deploying of funds across all sectors of our economy and of our states that are based on boycott of Israel. And this is a right-left problem. This is now a Trump problem. And it's just completely absurd. And finally, Ryan, you have an update here, A8, about Elon and Twitter removing a blue check from Francesca Albanese, who has been on the show, by the way.
Yeah, so this is wild. Like, there are entire organizations that have been set up. I think UNWatch.org, which is referenced in this tweet here, is one of them. Specifically, it seems for the sole purpose of trolling Francesca Albanese, who is an unpaid UN special rapporteur for Israel-Palestine. She was sanctioned recently by the U.S. government, which people need to absorb what that means. Like, it makes it very difficult for her to bank, to travel, to kind of exist as a human in the world. Sanctioned. For report, what does she do? She has no power whatsoever. She can convene events,
and made a report
and put out reports, which you can read or you can not read.
I read it. She was here on our show. You can go watch that interview, by the way, if you're interested. Yeah.
Oh, you might get sanctioned.
Yeah, actually, I don't know. Yeah, right.
Careful. So these pro-Israel pressure groups reached out with lawyers to Twitter to get her blue check. Are you joking? And Elon
it worked
immediately. Okay, fine. Blue check gone.
Wow.
Taking the blue check.
Interesting. And the justification is that sanctions now. So the Ayatollah has
can't take her money. If she can't take her $8.
How do you even know she's paying for it? Because nowadays you don't even have to pay to get your quote blue check. All you have to do is have a certain amount of followers. Yeah. How did that work out, by the way? I remember a lot of people in my mentions talking about how genius the blue check system is. It really worked out well, didn't it?
Yeah, that was great.
So that's where we're at, guys. And like I said, I mean, if you want to have some hope, I guess you can. There was outcry about the explicit anti-Semitism boycott language in the document. They took it out. So, okay, I mean, somewhat of a win. But the truth is that the policy remains in effect if they wanted to. They can enforce it at any time. They say BDS is rooted in anti-Semitism. 39 states in this country, red and blue, you can't accomplish that if it's not truly bipartisan, have anti-BDS laws and or executive orders on their books, which is probably the vast majority of the U.S. population now living under those laws. Yeah. It's ridiculous, and it just shows you the extent to which our government is basically at this service. State, local, federal, now all at the service of the interests of a foreign nation.